Well, I hope that you've had a good week so far. I hope that you're doing well. And if you're hurting or you're sick, we want to let you know that we really do love you and we want to pray for you if we don't know about it. And if we do know about it, I certainly hope that we are praying for everybody. And we, as always, want to let you know that we love you. We're in Job chapter 19 tonight. So you might remember that last week we talked about Job chapter 18. And in Job chapter 18, Bildad begins his second cycle of his speech. He spoke for the first time in chapter 8, and he speaks for the second time in chapter 18. And now in chapter 19, we get Job's response. Now, remember how Bildad set up his second speech. He spends a lot of time not really chastising Job personally, but painting a picture of the fate of the wicked, and obviously Job, maybe we could say indirectly, like he's aiming that at Job. Job knows it. Job knows he's aiming that portrayal of the wicked at him. So in chapter 19, we get Job's response. Let's start in verse 1. Then Job answered and said, verse 2, "How long?" Now, here's what's interesting about this. So when Job speaks in chapter 19, he's clearly addressing all the friends because he refers to them in the plural. So he's addressing all the friends, but he's particularly addressing Bildad because Bildad just got done speaking. But how do we know that he's particularly addressing Bildad, aside from the fact that Bildad just finished speaking? Well, how does Bildad open his speech in chapter 8? I'll give you a hint, 2 words. How long? Well, how did Bildad open his speech in chapter 18? Give you a hint, 2 words. How long? Well, how does Job open chapter 19? How long? Job says, "How long will you torment me? How long are you going to put me through this emotional turmoil? How long are you going to continue to add to my affliction? You're not helping me. How long are you going to continue to hurt me and break me into pieces with words?" The words Bildad has chosen, they're powerful. They're not empty. They pack a punch on Job. They, no wonder, add to his affliction and his emotional turmoil. How long will you torment me and break me into pieces with words? These 10 times you have cast reproach upon me. Are you not ashamed to wrong me? First of all, we know that Job claims that he is innocent, at least innocent of any wrongdoing that would justify the punishment that he is going through right now. He's not denying that he's ever sinned. But the friends, however, are unwilling to see that. They definitely think Job has sinned and he's getting what was coming and now is. You have cast reproach upon me. They've taken Job's honor away. You not ashamed to wrong me, he says. Verse 4, and even if it be true that I have erred, and my error remains with, and if it be true that I have erred, my error remains with myself. So here we're talking about unintentional sins, sins that people commit mistakenly. It's not like they mean to. Well, Job is talking about those. And you know what? If we're talking about those, Job says, hey, my error remains with myself. In other words, who are you to judge? Okay? Who are you to point those out to me? Now, we all know this friends aren't talking about unintentional sins. The friends are talking about willful sins. Job, in their eyes, is this rebel that will not stop. And because he won't stop, he just continues to hurt himself in the process. Verse 5, if indeed you magnify yourselves against me and make my disgrace an argument against me. Now, if indeed you magnify yourselves against me and make my disgrace an argument against me. Verse 6, know then that God has put me in the wrong and closed his net about me. So this magnifying yourselves against me. Now notice Job has already been upset because with the friends, because he believes that they look at him as if he is he's subordinate to them. Like they're more significant. They're above Job. And the friends, they throw that back at Job and they say, Job, you think you're above us. You think you're so superior to us. Well, that's not actually true. But notice Job goes back to that. You magnify yourselves against me. Hey, hold on just a second, guys. You know that I was suffering. You knew that I was suffering. You knew that I was in pain and you came to help me, but you haven't helped me at all. You've done right the opposite. You add to my affliction and make my disgrace an argument against me. You take my current state that you're supposed to help me get out of, but you take that and you use it as an argument against me. See, you look at my present state, you look at my body, you look at all the things that have happened to me, and you say, ha, Job, we know why you're going through this. And guess what? Your body and all these external events that have happened in your life, they act as a witness to your wrongdoing. Know then that God has put me in the wrong. Again, here Job is. What's the source of his affliction? God. God is the source of his affliction, at least in Job's mind. Now, we have the blessing of knowing the beginning of the book, but Job, again, points it at God. So he's reminding the friends again, hey, guys, it's not actually me. It's actually God that has done this. God has put me in the wrong and has closed his net about me. Now, remember Bildad's portrayal of the wicked. The wicked has a path that he can take in life. And if he chooses to reject God and not involve God in the construction of his plans, at least for his life, and choose to walk down a road by himself, this road he will think will lead to success. And it might appear at the beginning that he is very, very successful. He's taking long strides in life, but Bildad says, you know what? A day is coming when he's going to notice that there's all these little traps on the road of the wicked. God has all these traps around. And once he steps in that trap, he'll come down. And then his strides will get shorter. And then he'll realize that road is not the road that he actually wanted to take. And that road definitely doesn't lead to success in life. Well, notice what God has done. Job's just going on his way and God just throws a net around him and traps him. So Job hasn't trapped himself because he's been arrogant, like the wicked, or foolish because they thought that, they could do everything without God in their life. God, he's the reason. Job says in verse 7, behold, I cry out violence, but I am not answered. How bad is Job's current state? Well, in times of desperation, Job cries out, hoping maybe that people will hear, but most certainly that God would hear, but nobody hears because there's nobody around in Job's life anymore. And Job thinks that God has ultimately abandoned him because God hasn't answered him. I cry out violence. I need help, and nobody's there to help me, Job says. I call for help, but there's no justice. He has walled up my way so that I cannot pass, and he has set darkness upon my paths. Well, notice Job is walking down a path. but he can't continue to walk because God has walled up his path. Now, John Hartley in his commentary throws out a really interesting point. He says, recall the beginning of the book. Well, the Satan does not believe that Job's faith is genuine because God has built this hedge around Job, where no bad things can happen to Job and only blessings will come Job's way. Well, God removed that hedge to prove to the Satan, that Job's faith is genuine. But what does Job believe? Job believes that God has put up this wall. Job can't continue his path. Job has no way to know where his path is leading, also because God has brought darkness on his path. So Job can't know where he's going. He also can't know, really where the path continues. So he can stray off the path. He can be led to danger because he doesn't know where he's going. Now remember, he might be drawing back on what Bildad had said, because Bildad said for the wicked person, the light is on in their tent, but eventually that light is distinguished. He has stripped me from my glory and taken the crown from my head. Well, what glory did Job have? Well, before all this happened, Job had a lot of honor. And now Job is shamed by a lot of people. He has no honor anymore. But once upon a time, people came to ask Job for advice. People wanted to listen to Job. In fact, when Job spoke, people ceased from speaking. It's like they were glued to what he was saying. Their ears were glued to what he was saying. No more of that. Job's no longer this man of honor, and God is the reason for that, at least in Job's mind. He brings me down on every side, and I am gone. Now, notice Job is comparing himself to like a walled city maybe, and people come in to maybe lay siege to that city or tear down the wall. They tear down in such a way that nothing is left. And my hope has been pulled up like a tree. My hope has been pulled up like a tree. Job talked about a tree before, that the tree had hope, that if the tree died, it was okay. If the stump was dormant, it would be all right, because eventually a new tree could sprout and the tree could continue to live. But Job says he has no hope like the tree. Notice here, the tree has no hope because God has uprooted the tree. Obviously, no tree can grow if the tree has been uprooted. He has kindled his wrath against me and counts me as his adversary. Job is he thinks he's experiencing the total wrath of God. God's anger is burning hot because Job is an enemy. God is not going to let off in his punishment. Verse 12, his troops come on together. They cast up their siege ramp against me and encamp around my tent. Again, going back to this, Job is like this wall that, God's troops go around. They cut off access points, all access points. And then at the most vulnerable point of the city, they lay a ramp and they go in and they destroy everything and take down the wall. Job even says, they encamp around my tent. God is getting me. Rest assured, he is destroying every part of me. Verse 13, he has put my brothers far from me, and those who knew me are wholly estranged from me. John Hartley also has a good point about this. He says that the word for brothers should be taken to mean blood brothers, they're his actual brothers. And those who knew me are wholly estranged from me. So can Job's brothers help him? Well, no, they're nowhere around. My relatives have failed me, and my close friends have forgotten me. So what about my associates? In verse 15, the guest in my house and my maidservants count me as a stranger. Well, the guest in my house, I did good to them, so you would think that they would do good for me in a bad time, at a bad time in my life, but they don't. They're so repulsed by me that they don't even want to speak, much less look at me. Job says my maidservants, those ones that used to take care of the daily chores in the house, they used to look at me as an honorable man, but they no longer look at me as an honorable man because God has stripped me of that honor. I call to my servant, he says in verse 16, but he gives me no answer. Job says, I used to call to my servant, and they used to serve me, do whatever I asked of them. But now when I call, there's no loyalty anymore. There's no honor anymore. It's all gone. I must plead with him with my mouth for mercy. My breath is strange to my wife. Now, maybe this is talking about Job having bad breath because of his dreaded physical state. And I am a stench to the children of my own mother. Even young children despise me. When I arise, they talk against me. Now, this ought to highlight Job's just horrible state. In ancient times, kids really, really respected their elders. Notice with Job, none of that. Kids despise him. They talk against him. All my intimate friends abhor me, and those whom I loved have turned against me. Even you guys, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, my close friends that knew me so well, you're not there for me. Notice Job has nobody in his life. He thinks he doesn't even have God. Although he holds on to that hope a little bit, and we'll see that in a minute. My bones, he says, stick to my skin and to my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. It's as if Job does not understand how he's still alive. He doesn't understand how life is in his body right now because he ought to be dead in his mind. Now, notice we've been talking for several chapters now. Job brings up his physical elements more and more and more, especially how skinny his body is. His life is wasting away. Have mercy on me, oh you my friends, for the hand of God has touched me. Please, guys, please understand it's not me. Please understand that it's God. Defend me in this. Why do you, like God, pursue me? Why are you not satisfied with my flesh? Job thinks the friends are guilty because they're like ferocious animals that aren't satisfied with his flesh. They want to attack him in every way. They want to, destroy his honor, destroy his dignity, destroy him emotionally. It's not enough to hurt him physically. Verse 23, oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and lead they were engraved in the rock forever. Job is sad because he knows that his death is coming. It seems inevitable at this point. And he'll never get to defend himself because the friends definitely aren't going to tell the story how Job would tell it after he dies. The friends would say, this is what happens to a person that's a hypocrite. This is what happens to a person that disobeys God and is unwilling to admit it. But Job knows that's not true. So Job, wishfully wants to inscribe his story into a stone so that maybe people will see it and hear his point of view. Well, that's all the time that we have, so we will finish up that last little section because there's an interesting part there at the end. Next week, I can't wait to see everybody Sunday morning. If you need anything, please let us know. God bless.